Mr. Richardson, we need you in the innovation lab immediately. Victoria's panicked voice over the intercom made 75 employees at Pinnacle Technologies look up from their workstations. Something was catastrophically wrong with the new junior analyst. Very wrong. Aria Blackwood hadn't moved from her standing desk in 45 minutes. Not when Victoria questioned her unauthorized research proposal. Not when she called her work amateur and presumptuous. Not when other employees started discreetly filming the escalating confrontation. She just sat there, occasionally glancing at her rose-gold smartwatch, waiting with an unsettling calm. "Miss Blackwood, you are creating chaos in this entire division," Victoria said, her voice trembling with barely contained rage. "The regional director is coming down personally." Aria's smile was razor-sharp, the kind that made Victoria's confidence evaporate instantly. "Perfect. I've been waiting for him." Her phone vibrated against the glass desk. A text from someone listed as Blackwood Media Legal. "All systems ready, princess. Just say the word and we unleash everything." The stories we tell ourselves about privilege and power, the real-life stories that demolish workplace hierarchies. These shocking stories remind us that assumptions about young women often hide the most devastating truths. Corporate stories that rewrite entire industries. Have you ever underestimated an employee so completely that it triggered the destruction of your entire organization? The corporate battlefield. Pinnacle Technologies' Seattle headquarters buzzed with nervous energy on this rain-soaked Tuesday morning. The 47th floor Innovation Lab, normally a sanctuary of collaborative creativity, had become a war zone. Aria Blackwood sat at workstation 23B, her long dark hair cascading over a vintage leather jacket that probably cost more than most employees' monthly salaries. Her fingers moved across a custom laptop with the fluid precision of someone completely comfortable with cutting-edge technology. Victoria Chen, senior innovation manager, paced behind her like a caged predator. 8 years of climbing the corporate ladder had taught her to spot trouble immediately, and this 24-year-old junior analyst represented the biggest threat to departmental harmony she had encountered. "Miss Blackwood," Victoria's voice carried across the open workspace, "your behavior this morning has been completely unacceptable. You've ignored direct instructions, questioned established protocols, and now you're working on unauthorized projects during company time." Aria didn't look up from her screen. The presentation she'd been working on for the past 3 hours was a masterpiece of data visualization and strategic analysis. Charts showing Pinnacle's declining market share, graphs revealing their competitors' advantages, financial projections that painted a grim picture of the company's future unless dramatic changes were implemented immediately. "I'm working on solutions," Aria said quietly, her voice carrying a subtle authority that made several nearby employees pause their conversations. "Solutions?" Victoria's laugh was sharp with disbelief. "You've been here exactly 6 days. 6 days, Miss Blackwood. You're a junior analyst with no experience in our industry, no understanding of our client base, and certainly no authority to redesign our entire strategic approach." Emma Santos, a marketing coordinator at the neighboring workstation, discreetly activated her phone's recording function. Something about this confrontation felt significant, like watching the moment before an avalanche begins. She'd seen corporate drama before, but the tension between Victoria and this mysterious new hire was electric. "Perhaps you should see what I've been working on before making assumptions about my capabilities," Aria replied, finally looking up. Her eyes were dark, intelligent, and completely unfazed by Victoria's aggressive posturing. "I don't need to see anything," Victoria snapped. "What I need is for you to follow the assignment I gave you yesterday. Market research on competitor pricing strategies. Basic, entry-level work appropriate for someone at your level." Aria's fingers paused over her keyboard. "You mean the competitor analysis that your department has been getting wrong for the past 18 months? The office went dead quiet. Even the distant hum of air conditioning seemed to fade as employees throughout the innovation lab turned their attention to the confrontation. Victoria's face flushed red. "Excuse me? Are you suggesting that our senior analysts, people with decades of experience, have been making fundamental errors?" "I'm not suggesting it," Aria said, standing slowly. At barely 5'6", she shouldn't have seemed intimidating, but something about her presence commanded attention. "I'm stating it as documented fact." She turned her laptop screen toward Victoria. The display showed a comprehensive analysis comparing Pinnacle's strategic decisions with their competitors' moves over the past 2 years. Every major miscalculation was highlighted in red. Every missed opportunity was documented with supporting data. Every failed product launch was traced back to fundamental misunderstandings about market dynamics. Victoria stared at the screen, her confident expression cracking. This wasn't junior-level work. This was executive consulting quality analysis that would typically cost hundreds of thousands of dollars from top-tier firms like McKinsey or Bain. "Where did you get this data?" Victoria whispered.
Public filings, industry reports, financial statements, and some basic competitive intelligence. Nothing proprietary, nothing illegal, just information that anyone with proper analytical skills could compile. This is, Victoria struggled to find words. This is impossible. You couldn't have produced this level of analysis in 6 days. You must have had help, or stolen this from another company, or maybe you've underestimated what I'm capable of, Aria interrupted. Jason Murphy from the finance team had joined Emma in recording the confrontation. His phone captured the moment when Victoria's authority began to crumble, when the established hierarchy started showing cracks. "Ms. Blackwood," Victoria said, regaining some composure, "even if this analysis is legitimate, you had no authorization to work on strategic planning. That's several levels above your pay grade. You've wasted time and resources on projects outside your scope." "Wasted time?" Aria's voice carried a dangerous edge. "This analysis could save Pinnacle Technologies approximately $47 million in the next fiscal year by avoiding 3 major strategic errors your department is currently planning." The specificity was stunning. Not lots of money or significant savings, but exactly $47 million, with supporting calculations visible on her screen. "That's absurd," Victoria said, but her voice lacked conviction. "I am making wild claims based on theoretical projections. Would you like me to walk through the mathematics? Or perhaps we should wait for Regional Director Richardson to arrive so I can present this to someone with actual decision-making authority." The challenge hung in the air like electricity before a storm. Victoria had just been dismissed as irrelevant by a junior employee in front of dozens of witnesses, with everything being recorded. "How dare you?" Victoria hissed. "I am your direct supervisor. I have 8 years of experience at this company. You will show me the respect my position demands, or what?" Aria's question was quiet, almost conversational, but it cut through Victoria's tirade like a knife through silk. Victoria realized she'd painted herself into a corner. What could she threaten? Termination? Disciplinary action? Somehow, looking at Aria's calm confidence, those threats felt hollow. "Regional Director Richardson will be here any moment. We'll see how confident you are when you're explaining your insubordination to senior management." "I look forward to that conversation," Aria replied, settling back into her chair with the relaxed posture of someone who held all the cards. Emma's recording had been shared to the company's internal messaging system. Comments began flooding in from employees across multiple departments. "Holy shit, is the new girl taking down Victoria? Someone's about to get fired, and I don't think it's who Victoria expects. This is better than Netflix. Screenshot everything, this is going to be legendary." The Innovation Lab's atmosphere had shifted completely. What started as a routine disciplinary action had become a spectacle. Employees who should have been focused on their own projects were now watching the confrontation with the intensity of people witnessing history. Aria opened a new application on her laptop, a communication platform that looked more sophisticated than anything Pinnacle Technologies used internally. She typed a brief message. "Phase 1 complete. Richardson inbound. Prepare Phase 2 documentation." The reply came instantly. "Legal team standing by. Media contacts activated. Stock monitoring initiated. Ready for your signal, princess. Victoria caught a glimpse of the exchange and felt ice form in her stomach. Who are you messaging? Are you recording our conversation? That could be illegal without consent. I'm documenting everything, Aria said simply, for legal compliance purposes. Legal compliance? You're a junior analyst, not a lawyer. I'm many things you haven't figured out yet, Victoria. The use of Victoria's first name without the respectful Ms. Chen was a power play that everyone in the lab noticed. This wasn't an employee speaking to a supervisor anymore. This was something else entirely. Regional Director Marcus Richardson emerged from the executive elevator like a force of nature. 42 years old, Harvard MBA, 15 years at Pinnacle Technologies, climbing from marketing assistant to one of the company's most powerful executives. His Italian suit was impeccable, his silver hair perfectly styled, and his presence commanded immediate attention from every employee on the floor. "Victoria, what's this emergency about?" His voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to instant obedience. "Mr. Richardson, thank you for coming." Victoria's relief was palpable. Finally, someone with real power to handle this situation. "We have a serious disciplinary issue with our new junior analyst. Insubordination, unauthorized work, disrespectful behavior." Richardson studied Aria with a calculating gaze of an executive accustomed to reading people quickly. Designer clothes, expensive accessories, confident posture. She didn't fit the profile of a typical junior employee. But then again, nothing about this situation seemed typical. "Ms. Blackwood, Aria Blackwood." "Miss Blackwood, I understand there's been some conflict regarding your work assignments." "Not conflict," Aria replied, standing to face him. "Strategic challenges that require immediate attention." Richardson raised an eyebrow. Junior employees typically stammered nervously when speaking to executives. This young woman addressed him like an equal. "Strategic challenges. Would you like to see what I've discovered?" Aria gestured toward her laptop screen.
"Mr. Richardson," Victoria interrupted desperately, "she's been working on unauthorized projects. This isn't her assigned work. She's overstepped her authority completely." "Victoria," Richardson said calmly, "let's see what Miss Blackwood has prepared." Aria turned her laptop screen toward Richardson. The comprehensive analysis filled the display. Market projections, competitive intelligence, financial modeling, strategic recommendations. It was the kind of work that typically required teams of senior analysts working for weeks. Richardson's expression shifted as he processed what he was seeing. This wasn't junior-level work. This was executive consulting quality that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars from external firms. "How long did this take you?" Aria replied. "Approximately 14 hours, spread across my first 6 days here." 14 hours? Victoria's voice cracked. "This would take our senior team months to compile." "Your senior team lacks proper analytical tools and strategic framework," Aria said matter-of-factly. "They're also working with outdated assumptions about market dynamics." Richardson studied the projections more carefully. The analysis identified 3 major strategic initiatives that Pinnacle was planning to launch in the next quarter. According to Aria's research, all 3 would fail catastrophically, costing the company millions while strengthening competitors. "These projections about Project Titan," Richardson said slowly. "How did you access confidential planning documents?" "I didn't need access to confidential documents. The strategic direction was obvious from public statements, hiring patterns, and resource allocation visible in quarterly reports. Basic competitive intelligence." Richardson felt a chill. Project Titan was Pinnacle's most secret initiative, known only to senior executives. If this junior analyst could deduce their plans from public information, their competitors certainly could too. "Mr. Richardson," Victoria said desperately, "regardless of the quality of this work, she had no authorization. She's been insubordinate, disrespectful, and correct," Richardson interrupted. "Every projection she's shown me aligns with concerns our senior leadership team has been discussing privately.
The confession hit the innovation lab like a bomb. Richardson had just validated everything Aria claimed in front of dozens of employees who were recording every word. "Sir, you can't be serious. She's been here 6 days. 6 days? How long does it take to recognize talent when you see it?" Aria checked her watch, a gesture that everyone now interpreted as significant. "Mr. Richardson, before we continue, I should mention that this conversation is being documented by multiple employees. Their recordings will likely be shared across social media and internal communications. Are you comfortable with that level of transparency?" The question was like a chess move. Richardson realized he was being maneuvered into a position where every word mattered, where the wrong response could have serious consequences. "Why do you ask?" "Because what I'm about to show you will change everything about how Pinnacle Technologies operates, and I want to ensure you're prepared for the implications." Richardson felt his mouth go dry. This wasn't typical employee behavior. This was something else, strategic, planned, dangerous. What kind of implications? Aria smiled, and for the first time, Richardson saw something predatory in her expression. "The kind that make headlines, Mr. Richardson. The kind that trigger federal investigations. The kind that force companies to choose between transparency and survival." Victoria backed away from the workstation, suddenly understanding that she'd stumbled into something far bigger than employee discipline. Emma's recording had been shared beyond Pinnacle's internal systems. The video was spreading across professional networking sites, with comments exploding. "Pinnacle Technologies about to get exposed. This girl is playing chess while they're playing checkers. Someone call the SEC, this is going to be massive. Corporate America just met its match." Aria opened a new application on her laptop. The screen displayed what appeared to be a news editorial interface. Professional, sophisticated, with Blackwood Media Network prominently displayed in the header. "Mr. Richardson, are you familiar with investigative journalism?" Richardson's blood turned to ice. "What do you mean?" "I mean the process by which media organizations research corporate practices, document systemic issues, and present findings to the public for accountability purposes." She wasn't asking a theoretical question. She was describing exactly what she'd been doing for the past 6 days. "Miss Blackwood, if you're suggesting some kind of media campaign against Pinnacle Technologies, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm informing you that everything I've witnessed here will be documented, analyzed, and presented to audiences who care about corporate accountability." The threat was implicit but unmistakable. Richardson realized he wasn't dealing with an insubordinate employee. He was facing someone with resources, connections, and a strategic plan that had been set in motion the moment she walked into the building. "Who are you?" he asked quietly. Aria's smile was radiant. "Someone you should have asked that question about 6 days ago." The setup was complete. The assumptions had been made and documented. The corporate hierarchy had revealed its weaknesses. The recordings were spreading across digital platforms, and Aria Blackwood was just getting started with Phase 2. Richardson's phone began buzzing with calls from corporate headquarters. Victoria stared at her career crumbling in real time. Emma's video hit 50,000 views across multiple platforms. The Innovation Lab had become the epicenter of a corporate earthquake that would reshape everything. "Now," Aria said, opening her communication app, "let's discuss what happens next." Richardson's phone erupted with notifications. Text messages from corporate headquarters, missed calls from the CEO's office, and urgent emails marked "Confidential, immediate response required." His hands trembled as he read the first message. "Marcus, emergency board meeting in 15 minutes. Social media monitoring shows Pinnacle trending globally. Video of confrontation has 200K views and climbing. Legal department mobilizing. Whatever's happening on your floor, contain it now. CEO Jonathan Hayes." 200,000 views. Richardson felt his career prospects evaporating in real time. "Miss Blackwood," he said carefully, "I think we need to discuss this situation privately." "Privacy?"
Aria's laugh was musical and dangerous. Mr. Richardson, privacy ended the moment your manager decided to humiliate me in front of 75 witnesses. Everything is documented now. Everything is public record. She gestured toward the innovation lab, where employees had abandoned all pretense of working. Phones were recording from every angle. The company's internal messaging system was exploding with shared videos and commentary. Emma Santos had started a live stream that was being shared across LinkedIn, Twitter, and TikTok. Victoria Chan stood frozen, watching her 8-year career implode in real time. The confident supervisor who'd entered the lab that morning was gone, replaced by someone who finally understood she'd made a catastrophic mistake. "Sir, we can still salvage this. Disciplinary action, confidentiality agreements, damage control." "Victoria," Aria interrupted, her voice cutting through the corporate noise like a blade. "Would you like to see what damage control looks like when you're fighting a media empire?" She turned her laptop screen toward both managers. The display showed a sophisticated media dashboard, real-time social media monitoring, news outlet contacts, editorial calendars, and publication schedules. At the top, in elegant script, Blackwood Media International. Truth through transparency. Richardson's blood turned to ice. "Blackwood Media? You've heard of us," Aria said with satisfaction. "Good. That will make the next part easier." Blackwood Media International wasn't just another news organization. It was a global empire valued at $12 billion, known for investigative journalism that had toppled governments, exposed corporate corruption, and destroyed careers across 6 continents. Their documentaries won Emmy Awards. Their investigative pieces triggered congressional hearings. When Blackwood Media decided to focus on a target, that target usually ceased to exist. Richardson couldn't finish the sentence. Aria Blackwood, daughter of media mogul Vincent Blackwood, Harvard Business School magna cum laude, former McKinsey consultant, current heir to a media empire that reaches 400 million people globally. The revelation hit the innovation lab like a nuclear explosion. Employees who'd been casually recording suddenly realized they were witnessing history. Emma's livestream viewer count exploded past 500,000 as news of the Blackwood connection spread across social platforms. "You've been undercover," Victoria gasped. "I've been investigating," Aria corrected. 6 days of documenting workplace discrimination, management incompetence, and corporate negligence. 6 days of gathering evidence for the most comprehensive exposé of corporate culture dysfunction in American business history. She opened another application, revealing a partially completed documentary titled The Pinnacle Problem: How Corporate America Destroys Talent Through Bias and Incompetence. "Miss Blackwood," Richardson said desperately, "surely we can discuss this reasonably. If there are issues with our workplace culture, we're always open to feedback and improvement." "Mr. Richardson, do you know what your company's employee satisfaction rating is among women and minorities?" Richardson didn't answer. He was afraid to guess. 17%. 17% of women and minority employees would recommend Pinnacle Technologies as a good place to work. That's the lowest rating in your industry. She clicked to another screen showing comprehensive data. Exit interview summaries, Glassdoor reviews, internal survey results, and discrimination complaint statistics. In the past 2 years, Pinnacle has faced 47 discrimination complaints. 47. Your legal department has paid out $3.2 million in settlement agreements. Your HR turnover rate is 89% annually because employees can't stand working in your toxic environment. The specificity was devastating. This wasn't casual criticism. This was a forensic analysis of systemic corporate failure. "And Victoria," Aria turned to the supervisor who'd started this confrontation, "your department specifically has a 91% turnover rate among female employees. 91%. Women spend an average of 8.3 months working under your supervision before requesting transfers or leaving the company entirely." Victoria's face went white chalk. Those statistics weren't public.
They were internal HR data that should have been confidential.
How did you access confidential personnel records? Richardson demanded. I didn't need to access anything confidential, Aria replied. Exit interviews are public record when they involve discrimination complaints. Settlement agreements become discoverable through court filings. Employee satisfaction surveys are shared with industry benchmarking organizations. Everything I've compiled is legally accessible information that your competitors already know. The implications were staggering. If Pinnacle's corporate dysfunction was visible to industry analysts, their market position was even more precarious than anyone realized. Aria's phone chimed with a video call notification. She accepted it, angling the laptop screen so the entire innovation lab could see. The face that appeared belonged to Vincent Blackwood, one of the most powerful media moguls in the world. Billionaire, congressional testimony witness, the man who'd exposed 3 Fortune 500 CEOs, triggered the resignations of 4 senators, and forced regulatory changes across multiple industries. Aria, sweetheart, how's the investigation proceeding? The casual familiarity in his voice sent shockwaves through every employee within hearing distance. This wasn't a business relationship. This was family. Hi, Dad. I think we have everything we need for the documentary. The management response has been exactly what we predicted. Dad? Victoria whispered, the word barely audible. Vincent Blackwood's attention shifted to Richardson and Victoria. You must be the executives who've been providing such excellent examples of corporate bias and incompetence. Thank you for making this case study so compelling. Richardson found his voice. Mr. Blackwood, I assure you, any issues can be resolved internally. We have established procedures for addressing workplace concerns. Mr. Richardson, I've been monitoring this situation for 6 days. I've seen the procedures. They're the problem. Vincent's image was joined by other faces, lawyers, journalists, producers, and executives from Blackwood Media's various divisions. Aria, legal department has completed the preliminary review. We have documented evidence of workplace discrimination, retaliation against whistleblowers, and systematic bias in promotion decisions, sufficient for both civil litigation and federal investigation. Thank you, Sarah. What about the documentary production timeline? Post-production can have the first episode ready for broadcast in 72 hours. Netflix and HBO are both bidding for exclusive streaming rights. Congressional staffers from the Labor Committee have requested advanced screening. Richardson felt the room spinning. A Netflix documentary, congressional investigation, his phone was buzzing with increasingly frantic messages from corporate headquarters. Mr. Blackwood, what do you want? Money? Policy changes? We can negotiate. Vincent's laugh was cold. Mr. Richardson, my family's net worth is approximately $47 billion. We don't need your money. What we want is accountability. The video call expanded to include more participants. Federal investigators from the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, journalists from the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, producers from 60 Minutes and Dateline. Ladies and gentlemen, addressed the virtual audience, you're witnessing the conclusion of a 6-day investigation into workplace discrimination at Pinnacle Technologies. My daughter has documented systematic bias, management incompetence, and corporate negligence that violates multiple federal statutes. Emma's live stream had reached 800,000 viewers. Comments flooded faster than the platform could process. Billionaire's daughter going nuclear on corporate America. Someone screenshot everything. This is history. Pinnacle Technologies about to be destroyed. Justice is beautiful. Aria stood, commanding attention from both the physical room and the virtual audience. For 6 days, I worked as a junior analyst at Pinnacle Technologies. I experienced firsthand the discrimination, bias, and systemic dysfunction that drives away talent and destroys careers. Everything you've witnessed today,
The assumptions, the disrespect, and the immediate move to terminate rather than listen represents the corporate culture that 73% of American workers say makes them consider leaving their jobs. She turned to Victoria. Victoria, you assumed I was incapable of strategic analysis because of my age, gender, and appearance. You questioned my work ethic, my intelligence, and my right to contribute meaningfully to this organization. You did this publicly, with witnesses, while being recorded. Victoria was crying now, understanding that her career was over. Mr. Richardson, when presented with evidence of my capabilities, your first instinct was damage control rather than investigation. You prioritized protecting the status quo over addressing legitimate concerns about organizational dysfunction. Richardson couldn't meet his eyes. 8 years of management experience, and he'd never encountered someone who could dismantle corporate hierarchy with such surgical precision. The documentary will be titled The Pinnacle Problem: How Corporate America Destroys Talent. It will air simultaneously across 14 networks, stream on 3 platforms, and be submitted to Congress as evidence for upcoming hearings on workplace discrimination. She paused, letting the implications settle. However, the single word carried infinite weight. Everyone in the room and watching online held their breath.
There is one scenario where this story has a different ending. Richardson leaned forward desperately. What scenario? Complete corporate transformation. Pinnacle Technologies becomes the first major corporation to implement the Blackwood Accountability Protocol. Mandatory bias training, third-party workplace auditing, transparent promotion criteria, and zero tolerance for discrimination with immediate termination. She opened another document on her laptop, a comprehensive corporate reform plan, professionally drafted with legal review, full implementation within 60 days, $25 million investment in employee development and workplace culture improvement. Victoria and you, Mr. Richardson, become the first case studies, publicly acknowledging your biases and spending the next year traveling to corporate conferences explaining how unconscious discrimination destroys organizations. The choice was clear: voluntary transformation or involuntary destruction. "Sir," Victoria whispered, "my mortgage, my family, I'll lose everything." "Victoria, you've already lost everything," Aria replied, not unkindly. "The question is whether you use this moment to grow or to disappear entirely." Richardson's phone rang. CEO Jonathan Hayes calling for the 5th time in 10 minutes. "Answer it," Aria suggested. "Put it on speaker. Let's see if your CEO is smarter than his regional management." Richardson's hand shook as he accepted the call. "Marcus, what the hell is happening? I have board members calling me, shareholders demanding explanations, and the media requesting comment on some documentary about workplace discrimination. Fix this now." "Mr. Hayes, this is Aria Blackwood. I believe you know my father." Dead silence on the phone. "Vincent Blackwood's daughter? You're at Pinnacle? Why?" "Investigating the corporate culture that's about to destroy your company's reputation unless you make some very smart decisions in the next 5 minutes. Hayes' voice was barely controlled panic. "Miss Blackwood, I'm sure we can resolve any concerns through proper channels." "Mr. Hayes, the proper channels failed 47 times over the past 2 years. That's why my father sent me undercover to document the systematic problems that your executives refuse to address." Vincent's voice joined from the video call. "Jonathan, we've met at several media industry conferences. You know my reputation for thorough investigation and fair reporting. Your company has a choice: voluntary transformation or public exposure. The evidence is overwhelming." Hayes was quiet for a long moment. In the background, they could hear urgent conversations and phones ringing constantly. "What kind of transformation?" "Complete overhaul of workplace policies, mandatory accountability training,
third-party auditing, and transparent reporting on diversity and inclusion metrics. Your company becomes a model for corporate accountability, or it becomes a cautionary tale. And if we refuse? Then in 72 hours, 400 million people will watch a documentary about how Pinnacle Technologies represents everything wrong with corporate America. Your stock price will crater, your clients will flee, and federal investigators will audit every employment decision you've made since 2020. The choice was simple: transformation or annihilation. Hayes' response was immediate. We accept. Full implementation of whatever protocols you recommend, complete cooperation with the accountability program. Excellent decision, Vincent said. Marcus and Victoria will become your first success stories, examples of how people can grow beyond their biases when given proper training and accountability. Richardson and Victoria exchanged glances. Their careers as they knew them were over, but they'd been offered something unexpected: redemption. There's one more element, Aria said, opening her final presentation. Pinnacle Technologies will establish a $50 million fund for workplace discrimination prevention research. You'll become the primary corporate sponsor for the National Center for Workplace Equality. $50 million? Hayes gasped. Mr. Hayes, your company's market capitalization is $12 billion. $50 million is the cost of preventing a civil rights lawsuit that could cost you 10 times that amount. The mathematics of accountability were undeniable. Emma's live stream reached 1 million viewers. The story was trending globally across all social media platforms. News outlets were preparing special reports. Congressional staffers were scheduling hearings. Ladies and gentlemen, Aria addressed both the room and the virtual audience. What you've witnessed today is how change happens in modern corporate America, not through internal complaints or HR processes, but through transparency, accountability, and the strategic application of consequences. She closed her laptop and gathered her belongings. Victoria, Marcus, your real work begins tomorrow. You'll spend the next year telling this story at conferences, in boardrooms, and at universities. Your mistakes will become teaching tools that help other organizations avoid the same failures. She paused at the edge of the innovation lab. And for everyone watching online, this is what happens when you underestimate someone based on appearance, age, or assumptions about their background. The person you dismiss might be documenting everything. The employee you disrespect might have resources you can't imagine.
MIT Computer Science, specialized in organizational data analysis. I've been developing algorithms that can predict workplace discrimination patterns from publicly available information. That sounds fascinating. Have you had a chance to present your research? My supervisor says it's too theoretical for practical application. He thinks I should focus on more traditional consulting work. Victoria felt a familiar chill. History was trying to repeat itself. Sarah, would you be interested in presenting your research at Pinnacle Technologies next month? We're always looking for innovative approaches to workplace analysis. Really? You think it might be valuable? I think it might be revolutionary. And I've learned to recognize revolutionary thinking when I encounter it. Sarah's smile was brilliant. I would love that opportunity. As Victoria handed Sarah her business card, she thought about a young woman named Aria Blackwood, who'd walked into an innovation lab a year ago and changed everything. The ripple effects were still spreading, creating opportunities for talent to be recognized instead of dismissed. Somewhere in a Seattle high-rise, Vincent Blackwood was reviewing footage for the next documentary in the series. The Pinnacle Problem had won 2 Emmy Awards and triggered congressional hearings that resulted in new federal workplace accountability standards. And in a coffee shop near the convention center, Aria Blackwood was working on her laptop, analyzing data from companies across America, documenting the slow but steady transformation of corporate culture, one organization at a time.
The age of workplace accountability was no longer beginning, it had arrived, permanently and irreversibly changing how American businesses treated the people who made their success possible. Sometimes, change happens slowly through evolution. Sometimes it happens instantly through revolution. And sometimes it happens when a young woman with a laptop full of evidence decides that enough is enough.